Morning, Kumlan and Ablat Gemara.
Morning.
Today's daf is daf Beis. We're up to the Gemara on top of the page. We learned in the Mishnah that people that had a right to having a certain object later cannot claim a chazaka over time because the fact that you have it doesn't prove anything. So in the case of the uman, of the craftsman, of the tradesman, they're talking about not a chazaka for 3 years, we're talking about an object straight away. And he claims that he bought it. No, because you were given it to repair, and that's probably it is. We also learned in the Mishnah about partners who have a right, obviously, to be there. Or we learned about an oris, a sharecropper, who has a right to be there. And after a number of years, they say, "Well, it's mine. I bought it. I took all the fruits." No proof, because it's quite common where they have an arrangement. You take the fruits for 3 years, and then the next 3 years, the fruits are all mine, and so on. So says the Gemara, Avu de Shmuel, the father of Shmuel, and Levi, and his friend Levi, Kanu, they learned in our Mishnah, Shutif ein le chazaka. They took out the words that a craftsman has no chazaka, and they just said that a partner has no chazaka. And why? Because they say it's quite obvious that it's even a partner who owns part of the land, and then he used the entire land and says, "I've been here alone for 3 years, so it's mine." And yet we don't believe him. We say no, that your partners, and maybe that's your arrangement. 3 years you have the entire land, and 3 years other guy's entire lands. Is surely when it comes to a craftsman who has no right to the merchandise, surely if he says that it's mine because it's by me, proves nothing. That's what Abu the Shmuel says. So remember, based on top of the page, we learned in the Mishnah that a shutrin have no chazaka, and because the fact that you had the entire property the whole time for 3 years doesn't prove anything. Maybe we had an arrangement, you have it for 3 years, and I have it for 3 years. So surely an woman that has no rights to the merchandise surely has no chazaka. So they took out those word uman from the Mishnah. That's the father of Shmuel. However, Shmuel, Tani, he learned in the Mishnah dafka uman ein le chazaka, but he took out of the Mishnah the word shutif, and he says shutif yesh le chazaka. In fact, Shmuel holds that a shutif does have a chazaka, because if he didn't sell him the other half, if the other partner didn't sell the other half, then why was this one partner running the entire field and taking all the fruits and the crops and everything else for 3 years, and you took nothing? What kind of shutif is that? And it's not common to have the arrangement that you have it for 3 years and I have it for 3 years. So Shutef has no chazaka. But other Shmuel Tamei is consistent with the view. Shmuel said, Hashutfin, Marzikin, Ze al Ze. He says that Shutfin can make a chazaka on each other. Shutfin do have a chazaka. Why? Because if one person even owns half the property, is running the entire property, taking all the yield. That's not the way shutfin operate. And to tell me that you have it for, that maybe there's an arrangement that you have it for 3 years and then I take it for 3 years, doesn't work that way. We divide. That's number one. Number two, me'idin ze'elzeh, which you might will explore later, that let's say somebody comes and claims the half that this one shutuf is working on, the other shutuf can testify and say, hey, they're against that third party, and say that no, definitely that he's a shutuf and everything else. Even though the chayt is a gay but davar, he can testify. We'll see more later what the case is and why. The nasim shem misacha zelazeh. That if, for example, if from one shutter's house was stolen objects that belong to the other shutter, he has to pay like a shem masacha because he gets paid. How does the shutter get paid? The fact that the other shutter will mind his things for him gratis. So that's a form of payment. So therefore, if it got lost or stolen from your property, you have to compensate your shutter. We'll come back to that later as well. Rami later Rabbi Abba asked Rabbi Yehuda a question. The cave of the yeshiva of Rav Zakkai. I'm not exactly sure what this cave is, but the cave of Yeshiva of Zakkai. Me, Amma Shmuel, are you telling me that Shmuel holds that a shutef has a chazaka, which means that it's uncommon that you take it for a while, then I take it for a while, all of it, and therefore, if one shutef is running the entire field and taking the entire yield, must be that it's taka his, and for 3 years must be bought out his partner. Well, Amma Shmuel says we had an end above Metzia, the whole sugi. If somebody walks into someone else's property without permission. Without permission. So we said that you have to, you have to pay back. The owner of the property did get benefit from it, so he has to pay whatever is less. The shevach or the haitzah. If the profit is worth less, he pays the profit. If the expenses are less, he pays the expenses. He always pays with less. Then we decided they started going a bit more specific. There's a field that's common to be wheat, and you went ahead and planted trees. So it's there definitely yodei al tachtoid. But if it's a field that asuyalita Elon is a field that's definitely made for planting trees, and he saved your job. You never asked him to come in; he just walked right into your property, and he planted trees. Then you have to pay him the full amount, whatever it is you would normally pay. So you pay the full amount. So Shmuel came along and said that shutiv, if a shutiv goes into the other shutiv part of the property, let's say, is always treated as if he went there with permission, as if he gave me permission. And therefore, which we'll talk about in a minute. So what's he trying to say? Lavla memra, isn't he trying to say that if you find that one shutav is running the entire property, don't go tell me, 3 years later he has a chazaka, because he had permission to go in there. So why would he meicha? Because every shutav is kiyoyed b'shus. Isn't that what Shmuel's trying to say? Lavla memra, shutav ain't chazaka. How could Shmuel say that if shutav is running the entire field for 3 years, he says, I bought it, I'm here for 3 years, and the guy wasn't meicha? No, you see, Shmuel clearly says here that Shmuel has permission to go, should have had permission to go into other part of properties, and therefore it was moicha. That's not a question. There's two possibilities here. There's one case where the shutav is running the entire field, the entire field, and then Hadanoch is a palga. Another case is where the shuk is running half the field, which is what shutfus is, but he took the better half, much richer soil, the better half. So, which has more access to water, whatever the reason is, it's a better half, and he's running it. Now, which one is which? And one of them, if it's for 3 years later, he says, "I bought it, and nobody's making it, and I lost the star." One of them will be believed, one of them won't be believed. Which one will he be believed? Which one won't be believed? Some people learn this way, and some people learn this way. Some people say, now, when do we say Shutav has a chazaka if he takes over the entire field? It's not. It's not common that one Shutav runs the entire field and takes the entire crop. Shutfus is partnership. You take 50, I take 50. Either, we either each one takes 50% of the land and do our own thing, or we do it all together and we split the paytas 50-50. So one thing, so the shutav who's took the whole crop
against somebody else,
against a shutav. So you have two shutav, Reuven and Shimon. What happened was Nachis Lakula means that Shimon is running an entire field. He take all the paytas, and then 3 years later he says, "I bought it. I am here 3 years. I was meicha, and I lost my shtab." So in this case, we'll say that he definitely has a chazaka, because we don't believe that the arrangement that you run it for 3 years and then I'm going to run it for 3 years. That's not shutfus. That's not shutfus work. So Nachis Lakula, you will have a chazaka. But if Nachis to half, and you take half and I take half, but I'll get the better half. That is possible. It's plausible that we have this arrangement that for a couple of years or 3 years even, you're going to have the better field, and then the next 3 years I'll have the better field because it gives a better yield, and you want this kind of crop, and I want this kind of crop. So therefore, Nachas the Palga will say that there's no chazaka there. We believe there's such arrangement. That's one version. The other is Pufaket, that maybe it is common to have an arrangement. You run the whole field for 3 years, and I run the whole field for 3 years. But running half and half, that's not common. What is common is that we both run the whole field together, and then we split the payers half and half. So I guess it depends which area you are, what the minig amakim is. It's all relative. Okay, so right, that's one answer. Vina says, even they all went for the entire field, nevertheless, where do we say there is a chazaka, when is there isn't? If it's more than 8 amas, why do we learn before that? If it's 4 amas to each person, then there is a chalukah. Then what do you call it? Then we don't believe that you would take the whole field for 3 years and he'll take the whole field for 3 years. There's no chazaka here. There's no chazaka. But we're in a field that's too small for each to divide it, because it's too small for each one to have 3 amas to make a field. Then it makes sense that they make up. You know what? You'll have it for a few years, the whole 7 amas, and then I'll have it for a few years, the whole 7 amas, or whatever the field is. I'm giving an example of. Sorry. Okay. Remember we learned before, each field has different sizes. I'm just giving you a dugma. It could be whatever the size of the field is. But we had machlekes with kibbutz before, But the point is, if it's an indivisible field, it means it's too small for each person on the to run with half. That makes sense that we have an arrangement. You do all of it for a while, and then I'll do all of it for a while. Mashiach, if it's a big enough field that we can divide it, then it's not common that you do all of it and I do all of it. Why are we partners? We're partners because we'll both use it. Okay, Gufa, let's analyze what Shmuel said. So Shmuel said the following. Amar Shmuel, Shutef, if there were two partners, Reuben and Shimon, and then Shimon goes into Reuben's part of the partnership, let's in his side of the field, and it's like he has it didn't like he went with permission, which means that if he puts things into it, he gets fully compensated for it. Like we had in Bava Basra, a Shutef is created b'shus dami. We said before, what does that mean? So if one shutta, for example, is working the entire field, this is what we understood before, one shutta is working the entire field, and he's for 3 years, he can't claim later, oh, I bought it, I'm inside his side of the field as well. No, because shuttim allow each other to work there, and it's kiyoida b'shus. What Shmuel trying to tell us? That shutras ain't like chazaka. He's trying to tell us that shutrim don't have a chazaka in each other. If one shutta is working the entire area, don't automatically assume that he bought it, because the other shutta a lot of time doesn't mind. You want to go, no problem. So why doesn't he say clear? Why does he? Why is he so cryptic? That it's a just spell it out. Shutrim don't have chazaka on each other, and if you see one running the entire field, the other guy didn't mind. Not because he sold it to him. What Shmuel is trying to say something else. He's trying to say that as if he went in with permission and he has to get compensated. Not only does he get compensated for what he puts in, he puts in seeds and everything else to plant in that in Shutter's property. He gets compensated for, but according to Rashi, another shame it means, faces another shop, but the Rashi they say if he comes in and there's two growing already, or whatever it is growing already, trees growing already, and it's almost ready, it reaches the shoulder height, it's almost ready to be cut. If he does anything to help out to harvest everything else, he gets a share in that as well. Because once he comes in, he has permission to go in. He does not only the future but also what's in right now. Even though it's almost ready, and sometimes we have some tanoim hold that in like May and others that it's ready to be cut off as if it's cut off already. Nevertheless, because it's still attached, he gets a chelik in that. Another chiddush. We learned then about Metzia that if it's a field, that is totally uncommon to make trees. It's only made for wheat. And a guy puts in trees, he always gets Yod al-Tachtoina. If he gets compensated, okay, he got a little profit. He'll only get the lesser amount, the expense or the profit. But if it's a sada, if it's made for trees, and this guy came in, I never hired him, but he did a good job, I got to pay him full price. But a shuttiv is always considered, even if it's not a suyalita, as if he had permission to do whatever he wants, and he made trees, he gets fully compensated, not the Yod al-Tachtoina, the lesser amount. He doesn't get the lesser amount. Yeah, something about it further. And if he goes in the field that is not common to plant trees, he will be treated as if he planted a tree in a field that's meant to be planted trees, and will get fully compensated, not the lesser amount. Okay, the next part Shmuel said is when it comes to partners, if somebody's about to seize the partner's part of the sada, he's the other part, the Reuben Shimon can success on behalf of Reuben. Isn't he negay be'edus? Interesting about machlekes and the poskim, Shach and others. What is the psul of negay be'edus? I mean, what's the psul in negay be'edus? Is the psul negay be'edus you're like a relative? The same psul as Adam below Adam karveitz latzma, a person relative to himself. So you can't. If you're negay be'edus, it's as if you're talking about yourself, and you're relative to yourself. And the psul is karev. That's the psul. Or is the psul svara? We think you're lying. You have a vested interest over here. You're no longer objective. You're subjective, and you're lying. Might have come in a halacha, big not many, but one big not many is if you're incriminating yourself. If the virtues are karev, it makes absolutely no difference if it's l'chayiv or l'zakai. A relative cannot say haters about themselves. But if it's because we think you're lying, you want to benefit yourself. But if you're harming yourself, you're harming the other person, you're going to give haters, then what benefit do you have? Nothing. Then you must be telling the truth. So big enough for me in halacha. How do we understand the gay basis? Yeah, no. Reuben, the two both have a big field and partners. And Reuben is working on this side, Shimon on this side. A third party comes in and said that part is stolen. Mine. Shimon can testify to help Reuben out. I know that he bought it, or we bought it together from, but it's not relevant to Shimon, so he doesn't care. We bought it together from Yankel, and he showed us a star. He was there for 1 day, like before, and maybe he bought it for you. So he's allowed to testify. For the Gemara, but am I no gay beidus? So how can Shimon? Why is the gay beidus? Because if Reuben lechayda loses out his part of the karka, then the shutz becomes a lot smaller, and they're going to divide the other half. So he's mamish helping himself in this case. The Kosher, he said to him, Din v'dvarim ainli al sadazu. For whatever reason, in his magnanimous nature, Shimon said, you know what? I'm going to walk away from this whole field. And therefore, Reuben, it makes no difference to me if Reuben, you maintain the field, don't maintain the field, because I'm walking away, I'm giving up my half, so I have nothing to gain and nothing to lose. I'm not part of it anymore. We do have a whole discussion, and this is also an aid, for example, has to be kosher from the time he saw it to the time he testifies in court. You have to be kosher from beginning to the end. This aid over here is not kosher from beginning to the end, because in the beginning he was in the Geba Dove. Novos, in the beginning of the story. Now he's no longer in the Geba Dove. How can he say aidus on this very thing here? How does that help us? How does that help us? So again, here it depends. If you learn the Savada that is lying, then he has no reason. Who cares what he would at the time being? Which matters now. You think he's lying? What does he gain from it? Nothing. It has nothing to do with it. But if it's Karev, then it's a normal din of Avein. If it's a Karev in the beginning, if you were a Karev, the Gemara talk was you're a brother-in-law and then you divorce, you can say Aidus for your brother-in-law. But if the beginning of the event that you saw you were a brother-in-law, and then when it comes time to say Aidus, you're no longer brother-in-law, it's a problem, because it has to be Tchilas B'Kashas or Sefer B'Kashas. Karev is a problem. So how do we understand that? Here. So they
talking about what he did it before.
It sounds like he's doing it right now. Maybe that's what they're going to say, but it sounds like. So it says the Gemara, he wrote him. Says the Gemara, you can't just walk away. We had more there. If somebody wants to give you a matan, I don't have it yet. I can say, hey, I don't want it. And then just saying I don't want it is enough. Because you can't force me to take something in. But once I have something, I have kinyonim in it. You can't just walk away. You have to give it away. You have to give the kinyon to somebody else. What do you mean you walk away? Because Mahava, Tanya have nothing to do with it. Okay, you said it. But the fact is that you make kinyonim it. No, if he said I'm giving you a matana, he didn't. He said I'm walking away. That's what he's saying. I am walking. So whatever kinyonim you made, how did you unravel it? It's still there. He actually made a kinyon with Reuben to give him the land. We still have a problem, and the problem is very simple. When we Chatchila became shutras in this property, if I had a balchayv afterwards, a week later, I borrowed money, and the guy has a lien on all my properties. He has a lien also on this property, in my shutras. Now, a year later, I still didn't pay the guy yet. A year later, I say I walk away from it, and now it all belongs to Reuven. That balchayv still has his right to go if I have no money left. He have no nechasim. He has a right to go to that field and collect that field, right? The nechasim shabadim. So he has a benefit from it by belonging to Reuven. Why? Because if it turns out to be that the field was stolen and it belongs to a third party altogether, then he never paid the balchayv. If he never paid the balchayv, he will be known, as I will say later, a loiva rasha v'lo yishalom. He borrows and he doesn't pay back, and nobody wants to walk around and be called a rasha. That's a rasha, loiva rasha yishalom. So therefore, he is still in the gay babies. You sell a field to your friend without giving him any guarantees. So no, that field, if you lose that field, too bad. I don't have to reimburse you. Even though I sold it to you, I made up with you a loiva chayis. In fact, I made a chayis to safely. If you don't write a chayis or according to the bundle, you said clearly, I'm not taking responsibility. I'm charging you less, but the problem is it's your risk. Ain't made He's still, if a third party comes in and says the field was stolen, he cannot testify back. Look, why not? It doesn't cost him anything. If the guy loses the field, cost him going to say, what's the problem? Because it's a svara. If he had a balchayv, and that balchayv has a lien on that property, if that property turned out to be stolen property, then the balchayv will turn back to this guy here, and he has no money to pay. He'll be called. But as long as he has a field, okay, then the field is there. The Kabbalah is he's talking about a case where he took achrayis. He did take achrayis. So achrayis is the mahud achrayis. Ine achrayis is the alma. If he took responsibility, and and he took responsibility, and he said, if somebody, a third party, comes in and says the field was stolen, I'll reimburse you. Then surely he's in the gate himself, because if that guy ends up winning the case and takes the field away, I'm going to have to pay you back for it. So if I'm testifying that the field is not stolen, hey, what greater in the gay basis is than that? What's pshat? Surely he's happy that the field should remain in the purchaser's hand, so that otherwise he has to reimburse him. If he says to the purchaser, "Look, if a balchayv of mine comes and takes the field, I'll reimburse you," then it makes no difference. He'll be a leiva rosh whether the guy takes the field from Reuben or the guy comes back to him. In either case, if this guy loses the field and I gave it to a balchayv, then the balchayv comes back to me. Either way, I'm leiva rosh I gain nothing by leaving the field and by testifying on behalf of Reuben or not. Either way, if there's no field, nothing there, is I'll come back to me. In other words, if that field gets lost to the third party, he'll come back to me and collect. So either way, he'll come. I'm this balchayv, so there's no real loss here. If he just walks away, you can just walk away. He's no longer in the gay be'edis. But Tanya, we learn, but if a city had the Sefer Torah stolen from them, ain't done in Bedayonis, and there's a case now you found the person and he claims the most of the Sefer Torah. You cannot go to the local bezin. Nor can anybody in that town be an Edis, because they're all the gay bedog. Now the I let two people in the city say we walk away, and let them be the ones who are being the Edim and so on. So you want a shiny Sefer Torah. Why? It doesn't matter you have ownership in it. The Sefer Torah the Lishmiya Koi. Every single person has to hear the Sefer Torah, so everyone benefits. So everyone is in the gay bedover. There's a big machlek. There's a thesis in Sukkah base, which based on that thesis, all the Achrayim talk about whether there's a mitzvah to hear clear Sefer Torah, is a mitzvah to each person individually, or is a mitzvah that the Sefer Torah should be read every Shabbos in the shul by a minyan. But you don't have an individual chiyuv to hear the Torah. Here the Gemara clearly says, thesis does not bring the Gemara down; he brings other Gemaras. The Gemara clearly says, that every person in town, otherwise the people will say, okay, there's a minyan there without me. They'll hear it, and I'll be the Eidim. So it seems to me that every single person in town has a chiyuv to hear Kriyas HaTorah. True. Okay, we continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.